Alrighty, hi. So, I had a couple of questions while streaming about how I do some of the things that I do on Procreate, so I figured I would go through my brushes and kind of show you what's what. I will have these brushes available in my card link, where I keep all of my other social media stuff. So, if you are interested in looking at them and using them, feel free. All of these pencils are either ones that I've made or ones that I've gotten for free from other individuals over time. It's not something I've really kept track of, honestly, because most of them don't have like a made by on their thing. So it's just not something I've really paid much attention to, even though I probably should, but all of these are ones that I've gotten for free and have been like totally fine, except for the Rise of the TMNT brush that I got from Sicko Blitz. So other than that one, I think the rest of them are either like made with the default like presets and stuff, or gotten from Procreate's forums and stuff like that. So the mechanical pencil that I usually use for like sketching is this one here. It's pretty simple, pretty chill, pretty just, yeah. I like the texture of it a lot, so I actually use it for line art sometimes as well, which is why I have a streamlined version. So let's do a little drawing here real quick and see what we can make just real quick. Maybe a little pony character, because we've already kind of got the beginnings of one, and they can be our test subject. Okay, so then what I usually do is I will make a new layer, and then I will pick what I want to do my line art in, which usually I go for the clean sketch streamlined. That's my usual, because it has a little bit of texture but isn't too like out there, because I used to do strictly smooth line art and not textured line art. The mechanical pencil one is really fun for doing really textured stuff, especially for coloring and stuff too. So let's go with, I think I also have the fountain pen one in here, which can be fun to draw using because it has texture and it also has variation in its sizing. So let's use this one. Let's have a little fun on this one today. We'll use this one to change it up, because we also need a textured line art for the next like section of this little tutorial. So let's get some hair going on in here, because we want to be able to show different color sections. And boom, we've got a little pony guy. So we get rid of our sketch here, and usually I will just delete the sketch because I'm like, I don't need it anymore. And then I add a layer underneath. Now, depending on what colors I'm using, I will do a bright color to contrast with whatever the background is. Sometimes I change what the background color is. It just kind of depends. So for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my hard edge brush. I've got a couple of different hard edge brushes. So I've got this one, which is a hard edge that, like, if you look closely, it's anti-aliased or something. I think that's the term. I never truly pay attention to that, but so that's my main one that I have, that I use for coloring things in, so that then I can do sort of that trace and fill, since sometimes it can be a little bit difficult to get good fills on Procreate. So one of the things that was asked about was how do I get it so that then the color drop doesn't show like the weird halo effect. So, if I can do it correctly. All right, let's try this again. And then hit continue filling. Maybe not. Maybe I do have to sit here and... Or maybe my brush is just being really nice to me today. Well, anyway, if I have it at 0, you can see some of the pixels there that are being a little wonky. Basically, to fix that is you just slide it to the opposite side so that then your little bar up there is showing threshold like higher. Okay, let me do an example with a textured pencil as well, because it's a little bit easier to see with the textured ones. So when you go to fill, yeah, see, so with that you tend to have that halo effect, which is part of why I don't just fill in on my liner or like make a duplicate of my liner and fill in, because I like to use the textured pencils. So you just bump that threshold up, and then, and sometimes it can be a little bit finicky about what it wants to do, but you bump that threshold up and then it looks a little more uniform, a little cleaner. So we will erase that out. I also use the hard edge for erasing, and part of the reason that I have that particular pen being anti-aliased on the edges is so that then when I'm doing kind of the spots, there's not really a good example of it on here. When I'm doing the spots that are kind of like this, where I really need to get like kind of a clean line between the colors, but also don't want it to be like super duper clean, like, and want it to look a little bit more natural, having that anti-alias gives it a little bit of a fuzz. Meanwhile, I also have a pixel edge version for doing specific like highly detailed pixel work, and for doing MS Paint kind of sort of challenges and stuff, but it doesn't have that same pixelization. It has a couple here and there, just because Procreate isn't perfect when it comes to that, but it's certainly a lot better than the other brush. So there's that too, and this one obviously does quite a bit better job doing the fill in there. But yeah, I think that's about it for the different brushes. Oh yeah, I have my shader brush. We'll finish coloring her in first, and then we will move on to doing some shading and stuff. So I will be right back. I have our little friend here colored in some base colors. So what I like to do specifically for shading is I will do a clipping mask, and then I will do multiply and grab the layer that I used for the base and use my round shader. So I've got two different sizes of round shader. I've got the smaller one, and then I've got the larger one. So my round shader here is a bit smaller. It gets into those little nitty-gritty details, but then this one is more for that all-around larger areas. So I can actually use this one for both, but whatever. So what I do is I go in with my brush, do a little bit of haphazard scribbling here and there wherever I feel like shadows should be. I usually focus on wherever the hair is like hitting, or where there might be some extra shadows going on. It just kind of depends on the piece that I'm working on, of course. And then I take that same brush in my smudge, and I've got it set to a lower opacity over here, about 30%, compared to the brush part, which is about 50%-ish, approximately. And then I go in with a slightly larger than what I used to add the color and use it to smooth it out. Now there's another way that I do this sometimes where I just go in and give the whole thing a Gaussian blur, but sometimes that can be a little bit messy. I usually only do that for like pieces where I need to do the shading really quickly, or like I just am running out of time on it or something. It doesn't really affect the quality of my work very much. It just kind of takes away some of that work from me. So I will usually do that as a multiply layer, and then I will do another clipping layer with add and keep the same color on my brush to add the highlights. And this is very simple shading, very much like no major frills to it, because I don't always do major frilly stuff. A lot of my stuff lends itself well to this more simplistic style of shading. So push some of, and I use the brush to kind of push things around, push color around, get it into places that I think it looks good, and then I will lower the opacity a little bit, and then that kind of gives it a little bit more dimension than if it were just flat. But it is a very simple like style of shading. So let's go ahead and do their hair. And with hair I do it a little bit differently because it is hair, and hair has like that different kind of shine to it. So I will usually try to focus the shadows on like specific areas, and I do very swoopy stuff. And I will usually make my brush actually fairly smaller, that way I can get those textures going. That kind of gives it more of that like different strands of hair look rather than just blocks of color. And now my cat is scratching at the door. Can't make one video without an interruption, can I, babies? So, get that. And I will also change my like opacity level, which changes how much it grabs, how much it smudges for the smudge tools. Sometimes for hair, I tend to need it a little bit higher than I would with other things, just because I want it to grab those colors and mix those colors and have that like stringy textured grain to it. So I will lower that, and then I will do another clipping mask with add. And for the highlights on hair, I tend to focus on like specific little sections where the hair would kind of like shine, and then do kind of that thing that they do in anime where it's got that thing that goes like across it and stuff like that. So I will usually keep the highlights a little bit on the smaller side in terms of brush size. Maybe up that brush a little bit more. There we go. And then I will usually do it in like the two directions, but doing like one stroke at a time. That way I'm not like scribbling it and doing that, which you can, like if that's the way you want to go about it, but I definitely take a lot more effort and time with my specific strokes to get the look that I want whenever I'm shading and stuff. So and then do this section. which that one, because it's larger, I'm just kind of scrubbing it a little. There we go. And then that kind of gives that like hair texture, and what you can do is also lower the opacity and make it larger and then do kind of a little bit of a scribble over it to kind of smooth out any of the harsher edges if you want. And then boom. So that's about all the tips that I have at the moment. Again, I will put my brushes into a downloadable Procreate brush set for you, and that'll be linked in my social media links and information, ashtondon.card, CARRD.co. So you can find those there, as well as some free coloring pages. So if you want to go ahead and color some coloring pages with some and practice with the new brushes, you can go for it. But thank you so much for watching. I hope that this was helpful, and let me know if there's anything you want me to go over, anything that I do as part of my art process, because I would love to share that with you guys. So thank you again for watching, and I will see y'all later. Bye-bye!